Alright all, like the title suggests, today's video we're going to be doing an unboxing, an overview of the Fractal Design Meshify C Mini computer case. We're going to run down through the specs and we're going to do an unboxing of it, show you what all comes in the box. Let me roll that intro and we'll get into what this case offers. Alright guys, like the title suggests, I said in the intro today, we're going to be taking a look at a Fractal Design Meshify C Mini computer case. We're going to go to the new egg here. I'm going to run down through the specs of it. Then I'm going to actually take it out of the box here and show you what all comes in it and kind of give you my conclusions on it, my thoughts on it, on first impressions anyways. Of course, to actually get an idea of how good the case actually is, I'll have to do the build in it before I can give you that opinion. But at least I can give you my first impressions of it and what I think of the case. Let me get you flipped over here to the other screen here and we'll go down through the specs and see what this thing will offer you. Alright guys, here we are on Newegg. This case currently, at the time of filming, is $93.99, so it's about a $100 case. So it ought to be pretty good. Of course, Fractal Design, they do make some pretty nice cases. We have the Fractal Design Meshify C Mini Black Micro ATX High Airflow Compact Tinted Tempered Glass Window Mid-Tower Computer Case. Come down here to the spec sheet. It is manufactured by Fractal Design, of course. The series is the Meshify C Mini. And there's the model number if you really care about the model number, which really don't bother me a whole lot. The details on it is the type. It's a Micro ATX Mini Tower Case, computer case. It is black. It is steel. It don't have a power supply, but when you do put the power supply in, it goes into the bottom of it. The motherboard compatibility with this one is a micro ATX or a mini ITX. So if you go with a full-size ATX motherboard, it won't fit in this case, of course. It is a micro ATX case after all. It does have a tempered glass side panel. There is no LEDs included with this case. The dust filters, it does have one for the front, the top, and the bottom PSU shroud. You know, where your PSU fan goes. You know, it does have one for down there. The expansion bays on it, you have two 3.5 or 2.5 inch universal bays. You have three 2.5 inch dedicated SSD mounts. Expansion slots is 5. It is a micro ATX case. Front panel, you have two USB 3 and audio. The cooling for the system, the fan options is in the front. You have room for 3 120s. And there is a Fractal Design 120 pre-installed for you, or you can fit up to two 140s in the front. The top, you can fit two 120s or 140s. The bottom, it does have a mount down there. You can fit a 120 fan in the bottom. The rear is a 120 fan, which also includes, so it does come with two fans. It's pretty nice. If you want to do water cooling, or if you're looking to get an AIO for this system, you have the rear, it's up to 120 millimeter. At the top, you can go up to 240 millimeter, and the front you can do up to 280 millimeter. Which, if you see my other video I got out about putting a 280 millimeter all-in-one in the Fractal Focus G case, which I'll put a link to up here for you. That 280 millimeter in the front may be a little questionable, but with the way this one is designed, we'll take a look at it and see. But I don't think this one has any 5.25 inch bays in the front, which, if you watch that other video, I had to cut my case up a little bit to fit that 280 millimeter. But we'll see when we do the unboxing. The dimensions and weight, max GPU, it does fit up to 315 millimeter GPU. The max CPU height is 172 millimeters. Max PSU length is 175 millimeters. Dimensions of the case itself is 16.22 by 8.54 by 16.26. That's with the feet and the screws. The weight of it is 16.5 pounds, 16.5 pounds. Alright guys, if you want to see some of the other features that's added to this case, you can pause the video and kind of look through this. But I'm not going to read down through all these. There's quite a bit of it they add to it. And a lot of it I already went through when you look at the specs of it. This case was first available on March the 5th of 2018. So it's been about 2 years or almost 3 years now since the cases came out. Alright guys, that's pretty well it for the specs of the case and what it offers and what you can actually fit into this case. Let me roll the video of me unboxing it, taking it out of the box, and We'll see about that 280 millimeter, see if I think it'll fit a little bit better than it would in the Focus G case. Let me get this thing out of the box and we'll take a look at it and see what all comes with this case. Okay, y'all, now since we went down through the specs of it, we're going to take it out of the box there and see what all comes in it. The way I understand it, all these years I've been doing computers, I've been taking my cases out of the box the wrong way. By the way I understand it, you ought to do it from the bottom instead of the top. So let's cut the tape here. There we go. Which I guess this does make sense because you don't have to deal with the flaps for the handles in the box this way. You pull the box up off. As you can tell, the box is empty. You know, it'll all be contained inside the styrofoam. Let's take the styrofoam off over here. That's your typical styrofoam that comes with computer cases. Ain't too bad. There we go. Alright, of course you got the nice little Meshify user guide there. Hope you guys can see that. That's the user guide for it. It's actually pretty thick, kind of surprising to me. Throw that to the side. Take the bag off of it. Alright guys, now since we got the bag off of here, there's your temple glass side panel of it, which is pretty dark tint to it. I mean, if you're going to put LEDs or RGBs in this thing, it's going to be going to take quite bright light to be able to shine through that tint on that thing. And of course it will show fingerprints pretty easy. Let's start with the top and the front of it here. Up here on the top, you have your reset button, your microphone input, your headphone. There's your power button. Feels like a pretty sturdy power button on it. Then you have two USB 3s. Now you don't have no front panel 5 1/4 inch bays. That's one thing that you may want to keep in mind. If you're looking at this case, it don't have the 5 1/4 inch bays, which most people don't use nowadays, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. It does have a complete mesh front to it, which means you should be able to get plenty of airflow through it. Alright, to take the front panel off of it, you have to remove this air filter, this filter at the bottom. It says it covers the PSU, but it actually covers the whole bottom of it, which is pretty nice. The feet's your typical feet, got rubber padding on the bottom. It should have pretty good clearance. To remove the dust filter, you just grab a hold of it and pull it out. It does cover your PSU, where your power supply goes, and the 120 insert for your 120 millimeter fan at the bottom if you're going to add one into it. Alright guys, to take the front panel off, you got a little gap down here at the bottom. You grab a hold of it and pull it off. Which, that's one thing I don't really like about it. Your cables are connected, so you can't pull it off completely. And looking at the front, we do have the 120 millimeter fan in the front that comes included. You do have a removable dust filter here in the front of it here. It's a pretty fine foam. But once they get the build done, I'll test the temperatures and see how it works out. And it just pushes right back in. It's got the little plastic clips that goes into the holes. And while we're looking at the front panel here, you also have a magnetized filter for the top for air, for dust filter, which normally on top of the case you really ain't going to use that because that should be exhaust, not intake, so you really don't need to be filtered. But it's pretty nice, I guess, that they add that. Okay, to remove the glass side panel on it, it's typical setup. You got your 4 thumb screws here, one on each corner. You notice I am holding it because it is glass. I don't want to break the glass panel on it. Remove your 4 thumb screws and it should pull off pretty easy for you. There you go. And it does have a pretty good pretty dark tint to it. Alright, by looking at the first impressions of the inside of the case, you do have a PSU basement, which will hide all them extra cables if you don't get a modular or semi-modular power supply for it, which is nice. Looks like you got a panel down here you'll have to take out if you want to put a big radiator in the front. By looking at it, it looks like a 280mm may fit in that front compartment if you take that panel out right there. Take that panel out right there, it looks like you should be able to fit 280mm in the front. And on top, you have the mesh, and you do have your screw holes to mount your radiators or your fans on top there. They are just decent sized slits there that you put your screws in. You can move them back and forth a little bit. You got your typical motherboard tray there. You do have the one stand off there in the middle that's pre-installed. It'll got a little nipple on it that will hold your motherboard in place when you go to put your motherboard in. It does have rubber grommets on it, which is nice. I like the cases with the rubber grommets. Kind of protects your cables from being slid or anything like that. Pretty nice. You know, it also helps with the way the case looks. The back of the case, we do have the included 120mm fan that's set to exhaust. There's where your I/O shield goes. There's your 5 expansion bays, which is pretty typical in a micro ATX case. And your power supply, looks like it's got one of the brackets that comes off. You put it onto the back of your power supply, then you slide your whole power supply in, which is pretty common nowadays. Let's take off the back panel, see what the back panel looks like. The back panel does have captive thumb screws, so they don't come out all the way, which is nice. It means you can't lose them. You loosen up thumb screws, pull back about ½ inch or so, then it comes off, just like most panels do. Okay, by looking at the back here, here's your fan wire for your back fan. There's the bracket. Looks like you fit 2.5 inch drives on it, 3 of them. And you do have a thumb screw here if you want to move this panel. If you don't want to use the 2.5 inch bay drive here, you can remove that if you like, or you can leave it installed even though you ain't using it, whichever floats your boat. Cable management in this thing looks like it'd be all right. You got quite a bit of room back here for your cable management to run all your cables. Looks like you've got plenty of cable tie downs to tie your cables down with. Looks pretty nice. They include 3 Velcro straps here with your front panel connectors running down through, which should be pretty typical front panels. You got your for the front panel connectors on it. You got your power switch, your LED switch, your reset switch. You only have a USB 3. You don't need USB 2 because this case has 2 USB 3 on the front. Then you have your HD audio. Pretty common layout. There's your connector for your front fan that's included in the. Hold the cables up here, and you got some plastic drive sleds down here. They are metal. They're pretty sturdy. Seem to be pretty good. The ends of them here, the very ends of them, seem to be a little bit lighter metal. That way you can squeeze them to get them in and out. They do include some shock absorbers here for your hard drives. If you're going to put a 3.5 inch hard drive in there, then will kind of help with the vibration noise in your system. Okay, in my case here, in the bottom drive sled, well, maybe. Looks like we got a box of goodies. Get the box of goodies out here. It's a Meshify C Mini accessory box. Put that bottom drive sled back in. Alright, let's see what all comes in the accessory box here for the case. Pull it out, and you have quite a few little baggies. Okay, there's the accessory box. Pull out a handful of baggies here, and it's pretty well empty. What all they give you here? Looks like you got some fan mounting screws. Some screws here to mount fans with, which may come in handy. We do have, that looks like that's the hard drive screws there to install your hard drives with. They do supply a little bit of zip ties there for your cable management, a few of them. And the 4 screws for your power supply. If you choose to use these, those are the ones that come with your power supply. And here's your screws that you use for your solid state drives or your motherboards to hold down your motherboard with. They do give you quite a few standoffs there. It's what, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. You have 8 standoffs, and you have a little tool in there to install your standoffs with if you don't have a socket that fits them yet. And they also include a cloth there for, I guess that's for cleaning your tempered glass side panel, I guess, to help keep it all nice and clean. Pretty nice that they include that. Don't know exactly how good it'll work, but it's nice that they give you that. We'll put all this back into the accessory box here. And there's the back view of the rubber grommets that comes in the case. Of course, you got to get into, you know, pretty expensive cases to get them rubber grommets. So them's nice to have. Like I said earlier, you know, it helps with cable management. It makes the case look a lot better if they got the rubber grommets in them. Alright guys, that's pretty well the unboxing of it. I think I covered the features of it pretty good here for you. Let me get it reset up and I'll come up with a conclusion to the video. Alright all, we went down through the specs of this case and what all it offers you. It is a micro ATX case. So it is a smaller form factor case. So it is kind of limited to what it offers you. But it does have that full PSU shroud basement at the bottom, which is nice. It's got the grommets, it's got the tempered glass side panel everybody wants. One thing is it don't have 5 1/4 inch bays in the front of it, which a lot of people don't use anymore, but that's something to keep in mind if you're needing something that needs a 5 1/4 inch bay in the front. By looking at the front of it, seems like it ought to have pretty good airflow through it, like they claim. It is nice that they do add a couple 120mm fans. It does have one in the front for the intake, one in the back for the exhaust, which is nice. You know, for a $100 case, you know, almost, to me, for $100, you should get at least 2 fans in a case. This is a little bit more of an expensive case than what you've seen me go through here on the channel. But this is also for a $900 build that I'm putting together. So I am going to be doing a build in this case. I think it is pretty well designed. I think it's going to hold up nice. It does have the full mesh front on the front of it. The only thing that kind of concerns me about that is the filter that they have on the back of it is like a fine foam. I don't know how that's going to work with the airflow in this case, or what my temperatures are going to be when I get the system built in it. But I'll test the temperatures and see how it acts. I really ain't set up to do airflow testing, but I do go by the temperatures of what the system runs within the cases. By the first looks at this case, I think you'd be all right with this case. You know, you usually get up to $80, $90 for a case. You can expect a pretty nice case. I think this kind of hits all the check boxes that most people are going to want nowadays for a computer case. Like I said when I was doing the unboxing, that side panel window, it is pretty dark. So the RGB or the ARGB lights that you put in this thing is going to have to be pretty bright to actually shine through it. Which, it may be a deal breaker for some people with it being that dark. Some people really ain't going to matter. It's kind of a personal preference to you. But if you like this kind of video, and you liked what you've seen in this video, go down and give me a like. If not, there's that dislike button. There's the comment section below. I go through them every weekend on my live show. If you actually want to see me do a build in this case, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell where you're notified when that video comes live here on YouTube. And also, I'm also on Instagram and Twitter. If you're on one of them social media platforms, you like to follow me. I don't kill your inbox, but I do put up pictures of new products that's coming in here. It kind of gives you an idea of what you can expect here on the channel. And with all that being said, you all have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video or live stream.